All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome. We are live. I hope everybody is doing well tonight. Maget's good to see you. Welcome. We are going to pick up where we left off last night in developing our item editor utility. This is a bit of a departure from what we've done on the stream up until now, but it is a very necessary tool. So, hopefully we'll get at least the sort of file format figured out for this. Get some items actually created, and then maybe even start working on the import layer for the engine for this particular type of resource. So we will see where we wind up as far as that's concerned. Before we do that, though, I do want to just take a quick second just to thank the supporters of the channel, beginning with our elite partner, Javier Alazaran. That is the highest tier of subscription over on YouTube, memberships, and Patreon. Followed by the partners, who are the next tier of subscription there. They are Gerbolis Inc. and Matt Osgard. Followed finally by our supporters, who are a combination of the other tiers of support over on YouTube memberships, as well as Patreon and Twitch subscriptions. So thank you all very much for your support. It is greatly appreciated and helps me offset the cost of running this channel, running the project, things like hosting fees, software licenses, and eventually, paying artists and things like that if we get to that point where we need to do that, which I think we are going to need to. But anyways, thank you all very much for that support. I greatly appreciate it. In addition to that, I want to thank all of the viewers, whether you're joining us live here on the Twitch side or the YouTube side. We do simulcast to both. Thank you guys for being here. Without you guys, this project would not exist. So I really appreciate you guys being here. And that includes you guys who are catching this on the VOD as well. All right. So, last night we kind of left off here, where we were creating our sort of item editor. And I've done a little bit of thinking offline in terms of how I want to do some of this stuff. So I've got a little bit of a direction in my mind on how I want to implement some of these things. So my thought process is that we will probably tackle strings next, right? Because we don't have the editor for that yet. And whenever we go ahead and start displaying the item here that we're editing, we will also display the string that is available for the currently selected language, right? And so this is basically going to be, we'll have to create some string entries in here, and then set up some of the string IDs. And what we'll do is, for each one of these, right now we have sort of a view button, right? Which is eventually, it doesn't do anything right now, but it's going to take us to the strings tab directly and select that particular string by ID, which is all well and good. But I think we're probably going to wind up changing this to an edit button and displaying a preview here instead of an ID. And it might be an edit button. It might be a select button. We might have to actually have one of each for strings. And so the idea is that we should be able to, assign a string ID, simply by browsing, the strings that we have in our sort of database, and then be able to preview what those are here specific to the item themselves. That way we don't have to sort of cross-reference it all the time. So the view button is probably, like I said, going to be an edit button. And we'll probably also have a select button as well. And then, as far as the actual string editor itself goes, we probably are going to have a couple different things. We'll have, obviously, the ability to select from a list of strings, and then we'll have the ability to edit or create individual strings, right? So we'll need to figure out that logic as well. I figure once we figure that out and get that working, hooking it up to items should be fairly trivial. Vision, the developer over there on the YouTube side, how's it going? Welcome. You'll have to forgive me if I sound a little bit stuffy. My allergies are kicking my butt tonight, so hopefully it doesn't get too much worse. But yeah, seasonal allergies are a pain. All right, so the first thing I need to do is we'll have to do a live server. All right, so we should be able to, let's see. Why can it not get, oh, because I did it from the wrong directory, that's why. So we'd want tools, item, and then we can run this. Cool, all right. So we've got that running. Let's go ahead and start thinking about how we want to handle strings, right? So the first thing that we're going to have to do as far as that's concerned is we're going to have to set up the string editor. So it's going to kind of mimic what we have in terms of the item editor. We're probably even going to wind up, kind of emulating the same sort of structure here. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to copy this, at least part of the structure. And where we have our edit strings, which is going to be probably, I think it's down here, where we have this, we are going to have, let's see, our table set up. Let's see, do we have a surrounding div for all of this? Yes, we do. I think that's actually how we set it up here. So it's, let's see. We have the H2 and then we have this div. Do we actually copy that one? No. All right, so we need this outer div. And then here, we need to close the inner div and the outer div. Okay, so the edit strings should now have something that looks exactly like the items. Okay, perfect. So we're actually only going to have two things. We're going to have an ID and then we're going to have the value, right? So I don't think, since we only have one property for this, I don't think we actually need the 3-column layout. I think we can just, we can actually just display the ID, the value, and then the comment, right? So we don't need like this property name thing. So let's actually do, we'll do ID, value, and then comment, right? So the first one is just going to be the string ID itself. So in here, I'm actually going to do a span with an ID of, with an ID of, let's do string ID content, right? And that's going to be just where the ID of the currently selected string is going to exist, right? Ideally, that's probably going to wind up being actually 1 based. All right, and then instead of all of this, let's see, we're going to have, let's see. Actually, all we really need, we don't need this to be disabled, right? We just need the ID to be string ID value, or just string value, I guess. Yeah, that should be fine. And so we'll say that's some string, and then we'll have a comment here. In fact, I don't even think we need the comment. I think we can actually just do that. And so we don't need this actual row either. So if we go to strings, we just have ID and then some string, right? And so our left column is basically going to be a collection of strings that we have available, which we don't yet have filled out. So we should probably figure that out before we go too much further. It looks like we've got some strings in here, right? We have at least one string in here, so we should probably display this, right? So this is going to be our state languages, and then whatever language we have selected, we're going to display all of the strings in here. So what we're going to do is here we're going to have a div, and in this is going to be our input type of text, and this is going to be called string search text box, right? And essentially that's just going to obviously search or double as our individual search box. And then what we're going to have is we're going to have another div whose ID is going to be strings listing, right? And that's really just going to be an empty div at this point. Nothing fancy going on there. And what we're going to do is we're going to populate this, right? So we'll have another function here. We'll say populate strings. And I don't think we actually need, I guess we could say populate string listing, right? And all this is going to do is do a for state. Actually, we should do, we'll do entry in, or entry of, I think it is, state dot languages, and then we want state language, right? So we want the state languages sub state language, right? And then for each entry in that array, we're going to go ahead and create a sort of sub listing here, right? So when we do this, actually the first thing we're going to have to do is we'll do strings listing div equals documents get element by ID strings listing, right? And then we can do strings listing div dot inner HTML is just empty. And now we can actually go in here and we can go ahead and add to this, right? So we can do strings listing div dot inner HTML, and we'll just hard code some divs in here, right? No big deal. We can do div, and then we'll do plus, and then I guess we'll do entry value plus closing div, right? We'll hook up events to it in just a minute. I just want to see if this works the way that it's supposed to first. Right, so then we have populate string listing, and so probably every time we do a change language, right, we need to do populate string listing. And then also, every time we do onloaded, after we load up the state, we'll need to do that here as well, right? So that way we have the initial content there. So now if we go here, we should have, what did I do? What actually wound up getting added here? That's the search text box. Looks like we didn't add anything here. So I'm thinking for this guy, we probably need to do what is it? Size equals 4, I think. I thought it was, anyways. Isn't that how you, yeah, that's how you shrink the box, right? So we should probably have, I don't know, 10 maybe? Right, that's kind of our search box. So let's go ahead and add, let's see. I guess I'll do 12, and then we'll do placeholder search for a string. Right? Oh, it didn't like that for some reason. Oh, there we go. Okay, so search for a string. Now, why is it not? Populate string listing. So for some reason, did we index this incorrectly somehow? So we have strings listing. That is the ID here, so that should be fine. We blank out the inner HTML, and then we add a div. Let's see, it was supposed to be, yeah, value. Value is here. So for each one of these, I suppose we ought to use actual, maybe we ought to use just actual div objects, right, instead of doing it this way, because it's kind of hacky anyways, I suppose. All right, so let's see, state languages, sub state language. This is an array. Is it for of or for in? I forget. Maybe that's the problem. I thought of is, I'm pretty sure the one of is what I want. It is not, though. All right. Let me catch up on chat. Skelis Music, how's it going? Good to see you. This looks different. What you working on? So we are actually making a what I'm calling an item editor, but it's kind of like a little bit of a database editor. And I use the term database lately because what we're doing is we need a utility to build out items in the game, right? You know, potions, scrolls, things of that nature, right? And so we have all these different properties for items that we can have. And then we also need a way to represent these as a string. So the strings editor is what I'm kind of putting together now. And then we'll hook that into the items editor so that we can view strings. So the idea behind strings is, let me actually pull this up. I'll bring this down here. The idea behind strings is it's sort of its own little table that exists that is localized, right? So for each language that we support, we are going to have a string ID and a value for that particular string. And then the ID is what's used to say, hey, this is the string we want to use. And then, you know, we pull that ID's value for the given language, right? So we have English, Portuguese, or Brazilian Portuguese specifically, and then Japanese. And so what that'll do is it'll reach into the correct table and pull the value for that string ID. So, you know, it's this for English, this for Brazilian Portuguese, and then this for Japanese. And so we're kind of tackling a couple things at the same time. We're tackling localization at the same time as we're tackling an item editor. And of course, there's going to be you know, things like replace tokens and stuff that we're going to have to figure out as well. But for right now, we're just basically selecting the raw string that is within in here, and then these replace tokens will be used in a localization system that we'll set up in a bit. So yeah, definitely a little bit different than what we've been working on to date, but it is something we definitely need, and the game needs to be designed around it, so it's kind of an early game system that we have to set up. in order to support this. Okay, so why is that not showing up? I guess let's do the old... Let's do the old console log, right? So we have 0. Okay, so that's the in. This should be the of. Which is what I wanted, right? So it should be entry.value is what we should have, right? So we do right, which is potion. Now, if we change the language here, we should get, there's the Portuguese version and then the Japanese version. Perfect. Okay, so that bit does work, at least in the console, right? So what we need to do now is actually get this listing to work, which for some reason is not. So I guess instead of doing this, let's do a document create element div, right? And we'll just call this, I guess, div for now. And then we can do div.inner HTML, and we're just going to do entry.value. We can apply other properties to this later, but then we'll do strings listing div append child div. Let's see. Okay, so we have an empty div there. That's interesting. So why is, because entry value I thought was displaying. It is. Right, health potion, this is where we're printing it out to the console. So why is that not showing up here? We take a look at the elements. We're getting the internal div added here, but I mean, I suppose this could be, oh, you know what, isn't it that? That's why. Has to be capital. Which means this is wrong. That's why. Forgot about that. Okay, so there's the health potion, right? And so if we were to go through and I guess let's just add, while we're at it, we'll just add this second string in here too. Right, so we'll do new localized string ID2, and then there's the second string. And I'll just replace the I'll replace the quoted text here in a second. Just get this for Portuguese and this for Japanese. So part of the reason that I'm using the languages that I am using, Brazilian Portuguese is obviously going to be very popular with a lot of folks on the stream because we have a decent amount of folks that are from Brazil. But Japanese also gives us a way to test not only UTF-8 characters, but also having replace codes in different parts of the string, right? Which is something that we also really need to test, right? So if I come over here, strings, we may have to extend this out a little bit or maybe make it not wrap. But if I change this, then we get, the correct language showing up over here, which is perfect. That's exactly what we want. So probably what we should do is we should probably have a strings listing option. And we'll do white space, no wrap, and then text overflow, ellipsis, and then max width 100%. I think is what you have to do to get that to show up correctly. Maybe not. Wasn't it? Oh, might help if I actually apply the class, you dingus. So we'll go ahead and do this. We'll do div dot class name, right? And we could just do that. Oops, that is not the class name. Strings listing option. Let's see, did it not apply this for some reason? So there's the class. Oh, is it supposed to be white dash space, maybe? Yeah, white dash. Oh, and then I also think I have to do, instead of this, I think it was overflow hidden. That's what I want. I want the little ellipsis there. Okay. So this should be white dash space, and then we should have overflow hidden. There we go. Okay. So there we go. Perfect. And I guess what we could do, we could have a hover for this, right? I don't like using hovers for a lot of things, but I think here it kind of makes sense. So we could do div dot title equals entry dot value. There we go. So we can see the whole thing. Even if we change it to, Japanese, for example, we can see the whole thing, right? And then when we actually click on one of these, we want to use that value in the actual editor, right? So what we'll need to do is we'll probably just need to do div. Well, actually, there's a couple things, right? So we'll need to set a couple of properties. I guess probably the best way to do this would be to set the actual entry itself. So we could say just div.entry equals entry, right? Keep a reference to that in the actual div itself. And then when we do div.onClick or div, right, we can do what is it? I think, can't we just do this, I think. Let me go up to console, and I think when we click this, it should just, yeah, give us the localized string. Perfect. All right. So what we'll do is we'll say set edit localized string, right? And then this will wind up being a, we'll just say str, right? And we'll need to get, these IDs, right? So we have, let's see, do we actually even have these set up yet? I don't think we do. Yeah, so we'll need to do string ID content, right? So we'll have to do document.get element by ID. That is not what I wanted. Right, string ID content, and then we'll do inner HTML equals string dot ID, right? And then we can do essentially, or almost the same thing. So it's going to be string value, and it's going to be string value, right? And so we have set edit localized string. We can do set edit localized string, this entry. And so now it should actually populate. It should have anyways. Looks like I might have gotten something wrong. Let's see, what did I do? Oh, I'm setting inner HTML instead of value. Okay, here we go. There we go. Okay, so we see the ID here is changing, right? And that's not editable, which is correct. And then we also populate the text box there with the one that we have selected. Now we could also, and probably should also, we should probably set some sort of active on there, but I guess I'm not going to worry about that just yet. Okay. So that's a spam message. So we're going to go ahead and ban that one. All right. Singy, how's it going? Good to see you. Tama T also. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. All right. So obviously we can do some stuff in here to make this a little prettier, right? But for now, this will do. The other thing that I wanted to do really quickly is the size of this is actually kind of small, right? So I'm going to do size equals like 40 on this, right? Just to make it a little bit larger. That's better, right? So we can see the whole thing. Okay. Perfect. So it works in multiple languages, which is perfect. This doesn't update whenever we switch the language, so we'll have to be aware of that, I guess. Maybe we'll just deselect it or something. I'm not sure. Okay, so the way that this should work is we should be able to do we should be able to just update this, right? And the way that it should work is whenever we update this, maybe we'll have to click a button or something, right, to say save this, or apply it, right? And then when we apply that, it should refresh the entry here, but also refresh the entry in the actual array of strings. That way, when we edit this, it actually sticks, right? So I guess, yeah, let's do... We'll do an input button, right? We'll do value equals, I guess, apply, right? And we'll do on click. And we'll do apply string. And we'll pass how do I want to do this? I guess we could just do apply string. That should be fair enough. Oh, and I didn't close that. There we go. All right, so apply string, we'll basically need to take this back and apply it into our lookup, right? So we should do, this is going to wind up being, let's see, set edit localized string. We probably need to store this locally somewhere, right? So I guess let's do current edit string, right? And this is just going to start off as null. And we can say in here state current edit string equals string, right? And then when we do apply string, all we're essentially going to do is reverse this operation, right? So we can do state that current edit string dot ID. Actually, we don't need to set the ID at all. Actually, all we need to do is just do state current edit string value is equal to that, right? Right. So apply string should then also probably, we should probably also populate string listing after we do that as well. Right? Let me see. Yeah, I think that's reasonable. The only other thing we should probably do for apply string is check to see if we have state and state current edit string, right? Because if we don't have those, then we don't really have a way to there we go. So if I go here, whoops, current edit string 110. What was the error? Unexpected identifier. Oh, because I didn't put a comma here. That's why. Okay, so if we edit this, let's just do this test, right? If we do that and hit apply, now we see test there, right? So if we switch away from this and switch back, we have test. So if we were to switch this back, right, but not hit apply and change off of it, then it won't be saved, right? So we'd have to hit apply for that to be saved, which I think is fair. Also, one more thing I should check. Let me put that there, right? And then do this, right? And then switch back. It should still be there. Yep, it is. Okay. All right. So that is good. We have that working. So we can now select a specific string from our list, right? Now, obviously, we need to implement a search function, right? So that's definitely required. We don't necessarily have to do that just yet, but sometime soon we're going to need to definitely do that so that we don't have a huge list here to scroll through. But we need a way to create a new string, right? Because right now we're just kind of hard coding them in here, and we need a way to actually add to that collection. So, what I think we can do. What I think we can do is we can. I think we're essentially going to do this, right? So we'll just do create new string, right? And what that's going to do is it's essentially just going to create a new localized string, right? Which makes sense. However, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to generate a new ID for it. And I'm thinking the way that we should probably set this up, we shouldn't allow holes in our array, right? So we don't want to allow deletion of strings. Instead of deleting a string, we should just simply change it to be something else, right? That way we don't have holes in our array. We don't have to worry about, trying to check to see if a string exists at that particular ID and so forth, right? Which means we should probably do this, right? So we should probably also have default string as ID 0. And I'm actually just going to jam this in there the same for all languages. And so if we see that, we obviously know that that's very, very wrong. Whatever is referencing it is getting the default for some reason, which is wrong. And so we don't want to allow holes in our array, so we should be good to essentially keep a running tab of these, of how many of these we actually have. And then we'll have to add a new localized string using a new ID to all languages, right? Let's see. Ruche's on a 95 stream streak. Do my eyes deceive me, or is that JavaScript? Yes, it is JavaScript. It's burning my eyes. Yeah, I know, right? So what we're doing is we're actually making a item editor for our RPG, right? And so the reason I chose to do it this way is doing it through the engine is overkill. So this is just a quick utility that I'm slamming together to be able to create these things very quickly. And sometimes it's about, especially when it comes to tooling, especially when it comes to external tooling that's not going to be released, right? Behind the scenes tools, utilities that you use to just create stuff. Sometimes simplicity is key. And using the right tool for the job can go a long way. So the reason I'm doing it this way is it gives me a very quick way to stand up a really simple UI and be able to already have all the functionality that I need. There's lots of UI controls and stuff in here that I don't yet have in my engine, for example. But I can create items quickly this way and localize strings as well. And so that is the reason that we're using this, is because it was just very quick and straightforward to set this up. So again, it's an external tool, so we don't have to write it in the same way that we write the rest of the engine, right? Hope that makes sense. Etc. 4XG. How's it going? Been following for a few years now in coding long, but I'm still back on episode 100 or so. Okay. Slow because I have no experience with large application programming. Been learning a ton. Thank you. I appreciate that, and I'm glad you're finding it useful. Yeah, if you're around episode 100, that was right around, I think, when we started live streaming. It was somewhere before or right after that, or somewhere around there, I think. So yeah, we changed formats right around there. But yeah, it's pretty cool that you've made it that far into the series. So welcome, I guess, late welcome. I'm glad it's proving useful. That makes all of the effort worth it. Okay, so when we want to create a new string, we have to do this for essentially for each individual language, right? So I'm just going to actually blank this out. And so what we need to do is we need to keep a running ID. We need to keep a running ID of what the, I guess, string count is, right? I suppose I could. I suppose I don't have to keep it separate here. I could just look at the length of this one, right? The first one or whatever. So what we could do is we'll do state languages 0.length, right? And we'll take that as the length. And then let's see. So length in that case is going to be 3, which is going to be our next ID, which is perfect, right? So we do length is the ID. And what we'll do is we'll say for, let's see, did we actually, I don't know if we have encode for each language. I don't think we do. So I guess let's do lang count. Right, we could do that, and then we can do, I guess we should probably do for let lang of state languages, right? And then we can do lang push that, right? And so what that's going to do is basically just create a new localized string for all the languages, push it into the array. And then we should probably also set that. We should probably also set that using our set edit localized string, right? So I guess what we could probably do is this, and then do state languages, and then we'll do state the selected language, and then we'll do let's see, how do I want to do this? We should probably actually pull this out to its own variable, right? So we could do array equals this, right? So we'll get the array, and then we'll do array, and then array.length -1 to select the last one that was just inserted. I think that should do it. And then also we will need to populate the string listing once again to update the list on the left. So we should be able to go to strings. Oh, I didn't create a button to actually do that. Let's see. Should I put that on? I suppose I could put it up here or something, right? Or maybe above the search box. Excuse my sniffling. My allergies are kicking my butt today. Okay, so let's do type equals button. On click equals create new string. And then we'll need value. Create new, and then we'll just do a break tag here. Right, so create new, boom. We have our ID 3 right there, right? So I can just type some sort of rubbish in here, apply. There we go. So if we go over to Brazilian Portuguese, we're actually going to have an empty listing here, which is probably not great now that I think about it. I guess we could just, we should probably default it to like something that's like new string instead of just empty. Right, so if we do this, then we do create new, right? So we have new string there. We'll say foobar, and then we'll go over to Japanese or something, click new string, apply, there we go, right? We can switch language again. Pull that up there. Okay. That looks like it's working. Perfect. Okay, so now we have the ability to add a new string, which is perfect. So, let me think. What else do we need to do as far as this editor is concerned? Obviously, I realize that we've got our default strings here sort of hard-coded, so we're going to fix that in a bit. Once we actually get the file format stood up and we can load from that directly, that's how we're going to handle that. Let's see. What's the web server doing? Rip sticky switches. That was supposed to be yo Travis. ... Okay. Working with temp local arrays makes me feel like pirate sometimes. RRR. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah. So what do you mean by what is the web server doing? I'm not sure what you mean by that, because the only thing that we have, the only thing that we actually have is in terms of a web server is basically just a hosting of a couple of files. Let me collapse some of this, which would be under our tools item add, right? So it's hosting these 3 files, right? So one for the JavaScript file, one for the index HTML, and then one for the actual item database itself. Entered the stream and saw you were in a browser at loopback, so I hadn't seen much yet. Kind of getting it now after watching 5 or so minutes. Okay, I gotcha. I didn't see your message right away, I guess. Yeah, so yeah, we're basically just creating an item editor, right? So right now we're just dealing with purely temporary data, right? I don't actually have this persisting to a file yet, but that is going to be coming soon. Okay, so we have the ability to create new strings. We have the ability to open them from here. One thing we do need the ability to actually open a string by ID. So we need that. So that's basically going to be, instead of this localized string, right? We're going to need like another. Actually, I think we can just wind up calling this, but basically what we need to do is set edit localized string by ID, right? And we're going to have ID here. And then what we can do is, I guess we should probably get, states, languages, state, language, right? And then ID. Actually, before we even do that, let's be a pirate again. We'll say the array is that, right? And then here we'll do if ID is less than, actually I guess we could say if ID is greater than or equal to 0 and ID is less than state languages, or I guess actually all we need is R length, right? So as long as it's within those bounds, then we can actually do the thing. And so all we'll have to do here is set edit localized string, and then we can do that by ID, which is going to be that, right? So it can kind of just funnel through the logic that we already have. So the reason that we need this is so that we can select a string from the other tab, right? This tab here. When we click this button, we want it to basically tab us over to this and then set the editor to that particular string. We should probably also, let me see something here. So when we refresh this, ID, we should probably also default this to like disabled and nothing, I suppose. All right, because that's technically not going to work. Until we actually switch to an actual string. I mean, that's a minor bug, but it's still a bug. Okay, let's see. You know what a pirate's favorite programming? Do you know what a pirate's favorite programming language be? R, it'd be C, or R. Yep, I would agree with that. Maybe we should make our own language called like Swashbuckler or something one day. True pirate language. Okay. So we are also going to want a function. I guess, yeah. We're also going to want a function. Open string edit by, or with ID, I guess. So what this is going to do is string ID. So what this is going to do is it's going to essentially set the, it's going to do the tab clicked, this here, first. So it's going to switch to that tab. And then it's going to do this. right? And then string ID. And the reason we're going to want that is because, actually, we'll go back to the top here. So when we're in our item editor, right, we have this name string ID thing going on here. And so we should probably actually change up how this works a little bit. So I'm going to start with this one. Oh, that reminds me though, we have not filled in. All right, one thing at a time. Let me set up the view buttons click event first, and then we'll come back. So here we go. View string ID. Oh, okay. We already had that set up, I guess. Let's actually rename that to this. Right. And we're going to do just to test and see if it works. We're going to set it to 1. Right. So when we click this, it should, take us right here and open up health potion, which is ID 1. So just to prove that that's working, we'll change this to 2. Then I'll click that, and it brings up this one. Perfect. So that gives us a way to kind of go directly to a string from the property window on an item. So the next thing that we should do is we should probably also have something that quickly gets for us get string by ID. I guess we should say localized string by ID, string ID. And all this is going to do, I'm not even going to put any error checking on this for right now. Because again, this is an internal tool. It does not have to be perfect. So we should be able to return that and then value. Actually, we should probably return the whole thing. Because we do need the ID as well as the value in this case. Well, no, I guess we already have the ID. We're passing it this way. Yeah, let's just do value. Right? So, I guess what we'll do here, we don't yet actually have a function to populate this stuff, so we probably need to set that up first, I think, before we continue too much further. So we already have something that populates the string listing. We don't have anything yet that populates the item listing. Speaking of which, we did have some additional properties here that we kind of pasted in here from the C side last night. So we actually need to replace this. So we could do okay. So this is creating a new type of do I want to do I guess that's fine. So I guess instead of nulls for this stuff, we should probably like default to proper zeros, right? Now that I'm thinking about it. We haven't talked about use effects yet. That's another thing we're going to have to figure out. had a handle. Also, this should be singular. Okay, so equipment class, I think we said that could be -1 by default. Equipment slot would be -1 by default. Okay. So I'm thinking, I guess we would have something very similar to how we have this set up for strings, but for items. But before we do that, we need to actually have some sample items to work with, right? So let's see. So I guess this is going to be items. New item, right? And what do we say in our thing here? Do we say item ID starts at 1? So 0 would be an invalid item, which is fine. So I guess I'm going to set up this first item. I'll do the potion item first, and then I'll come back and do the invalid item. I think that's going to be the way to do this. So we'll set this up as 1, and then the item type here, we can select from this list here. So this is actually going to wind up being a consumable, so this is going to be 4. And then the name string ID, in this case, is going to be 1. The description ID is going to be 2. The cost, I think I just kind of like plugged in random stuff here. So cost is 15, sell value is 1. Wait, was it 1? 5. And then weight is 0.1. Unique counts, I think we had said we have a max of 100. Use effect IDs, we don't really have use effects, right? So I'm gonna supply 1 there, but I'm not gonna do anything with that just yet. Max charge count, I think, so that's gonna be one charge, right? Which makes sense. You can only use the item once. And then a 15, a cooldown of 15. Okay? So that's going to be the potion item. And then the first item is going to be an unknown type of item, right? So it's technically just not even... It's not valid. We're going to use string IDs of 0 for everything. It's going to be worth 0. Right, it's not going to weigh anything. There's no limits on how many you can carry, even though you should never actually do that. Let's see. Use effect, that's what that was, okay. So use effect is going to be 0. We'll just do 0 across the board, right? I guess that makes sense, right? So we have that. Nothing item, right? It's a nothing burger. Okay, so we have 2 items here. That should be enough for us to work with in the meantime, and then we'll, kind of iterate through this the same way we did with strings. Let's see. Call it scurvy and model it after groovy, right? People complain about it. Tell them to use C instead. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Excuse me 1 second. I'm gonna blow my nose really quickly. I was muted. What a dingus. I haven't done that in a long time, but appreciate it. All right, just to recap the last 30 seconds or so. I was just saying I may have to wind up shortening the stream tonight because my allergies are really bad tonight. So we'll see how far we get. But if it gets too bad, I'm probably going to have to cut the stream short, unfortunately. But also wasted for that, too. Yeah, I would not blame you for that. Yeah, that's fair. Jeet, thank you so much for the gifted subs. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you very much. The 5 gifted subs. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. I appreciate the support. Bad Cop, how's it going? I didn't see you over there. Let me see. Looks like I missed some messages. How are you doing, Bad Cop? I hope you're doing well. All right. Let's see. Okay, hopefully I wasn't muted all that long. I think I was only muted when I went to go blow my nose, right? Okay. Yeah, thank you again for the gift subs. I really appreciate that. Okay. Let's see. Max less than 2 minutes. All right, perfect. 1 to 2 minutes. Okay. What is your goal for this web app? Okay, so what we're making here is a super simple item editor. And so RPGs have items, right? So we need a way to very simply manage those items. And I was thinking about this for a while, and I'm like, you know what? Piping the actual editor for the items through the engine is just overkill. It'd be much quicker to prototype something like this and just bang out a utility this is never going to be released right to the public. This is just something I'm going to use to build items for the RPG. And it's also gonna double as my utility for creating strings, right? So localized strings are going to be a thing as well. So the whole idea behind this is to use this to create our sort of flat file database that the engine will then read in, and the engine will only have to worry about reading that file format. It won't have to worry about all of this other logic, right? Because I don't want all this stuff in the runtime either. So the goal here is to keep this application completely out of the engine. And I decided to go with a browser-based solution here because it's simple and quick to stand up, right? Using the right tool for the right job, So I hope that makes sense. Excel is the best database. If you know, you know. Yeah, I mean, it's funny you mentioned that because we do, like it was based off of Google Sheets initially, right? But I got thinking about it and I'm like, I don't want to write an importer for this. And this is not, like, there's no reliable way to link strings in here between this and, like, we're going to have other sort of IDs and effect IDs and other stuff. And so I started kind of doing it this way, but I'm like, you know what? This is not it either. So I basically structured out how this is going to look in C code when I go to read it in. And now essentially I'm building a small web app to, be able to generate that data as, sort of a flat file database, if that makes sense. Okay, so where were we? I think I was putting IDs on all of these things. So let's see. ID for this one is just going to be item type, right? And so we'll have item type drop down is what I'll call it. So we got that one. And then name string ID. Okay, so we did want to talk about how we're going to handle the string display, right? Because right here I was thinking like we could just display the ID here and then click the view button, which this one's hard coded to work to just bounce us over to here, right? And then we can do this. But I think it might be worth maybe having this as like an edit button where we display the string here and then we have an edit button off to the side from that. And the edit button would then take us to the string, but we could have a read-only preview of it here. That to me makes sense, but trying to think if there's any better way to do it, right? Like maybe we could display the ID here, right? So maybe instead of name string ID, we just do name, right? And then we do here, we can do name, I guess we could do ID equals, and then a span, right? With an ID of, let's see, it would be name string ID, right? And then we'd have the content there. And then we would also have this text box, which would be read-only, right? And this would be an ID of name string value, right? And so this would get populated with the actual string, so you could select it and all that stuff and view it. And then the inputs button instead of view might be edit, right? I think that makes sense, right? And then the only other thing that we're going to have to do is, I guess, when we set up the data for this, like when we're loading the actual data that's going to populate this control, we go ahead and then also set up whatever ID that is, and then set this to use that instead somehow. I guess, right? How are we going to link that together, though? Reasonably. We'll come back to that in just a second. So I think let's go ahead and get these IDs first, I guess. That's the first order of business. So instead of item type dropdown, that's going to be item name string ID and name string value. String ID and string value, right? And then I guess we could also what we could also do is we could also have an ID on this guy. Name string edit button. Right? And so what we would do with that one, oops, that's a misspelling. Edit button. So what we do with that one was we could just set some sort of like string ID value attribute on this. So we could just say this dot string ID, right? And we just set it on the button itself. So whenever we actually load up an item, we make sure to set this property. And then we could just essentially do that same thing for all strings of all the other fields. So I guess let's test that theory before we go any further. Because if it works here, then we can just sort of replicate that down the rest of the list of controls, right? So let's do... First off, we're going to need a way to select it, so we should probably do that first, right? So I guess... we can kind of just do a... Oops. Function populates item listing. Right, and I guess we'll do for var entry of states items, right? And for this one, let's just console log it first, just to make sure that it's the right thing, right? So item, and then we'll use I guess we'll use entry, right? We'll just log entry for now. And so down here, we'll have to do populate item listing, right? Which is kind of like our refresh of that whole list, right? So we should essentially see 2 items pop up now. Although we didn't actually set up... let's see, what's this bleating about? Invalid shorthand property initializer, 130. What did... Oh, I used equals here instead of... Oops. What a dungus. Okay. And then I need to... Let's see, do we have... Yeah, here we go. Here's our item entries right here. So that looks correct based on what we were expecting. So that's good. So the next thing that we'll need to do is we'll want to go ahead and get... Didn't we have... Get localized string by ID, yeah. So let's do in our loop here, let's do get localized string by ID, and we're going to do entry, and we'll do, what did we call that specifically? I think it was just name str ID. Okay. So I guess we could just do name str ID, right? So it should, right? The first one is default string, which makes sense. The second one is health potion. Perfect. So we know that linkage is working correctly, right? So now when we go to actually set up these divs, we can actually follow suit with what we did up here. And I'm actually just going to grab this, and I'm going to grab this, right? And obviously we need a div for that. That is similar to our listing for our strings, right? So we're also going to need like a search functionality and stuff for that too. So we'll add that in at some point as well. Let's see, strings listing. Okay. So what we'll have is, let's see, we wrapped that top layer in a div and then have the strings div listing below that. So let's do the same here. We'll put this here and then do search, etc. Right, I'll just do that for now. And then this is going to be items listing is what we want there. So we want items listing, and then I was wondering if that was going to work. Okay. So we want items listing div. We need to do that one, right? And then on click, we need to edit, instead of localized string, we need to just do item. Okay, so we need, I guess we could use strings listing option again. That's fine as far as the class goes. So we could do this one. Copy pasta this, and I'll put this down here, right? And then we'll do, instead of current edit string, we'll need current edit item. Right? And so this will be item, right? And then we'll actually want the entire item, right? So we want the entire item. So when we do the on-click here, we do this entry. That is the actual item. And then instead of doing all of this, we're basically going to do these guys, right? So item ID text box. Let's see. I guess it's not really. Item ID text box isn't really correct, is it? It
should just be item ID text, I guess. Okay, so we'll do state item ID text inner HTML equals item.id. And then let's see, the type. Okay, so item type drop down dot, I think I can do value, equals item dot, is it type? Item type. Item type, right? States item name string ID. Inner HTML is item name string ID, right? And then we'll do the states item name string value dot value equals states. Wait a minute, I have something for that. Get localized string by ID item name string ID, right? And then states item name string edit button. That one needs to be string ID is equal to item name string ID. So that should make that work. Okay, so this is not quite working the way I anticipated. So let me see what I did wrong here. Populate item listing. Oh, right. Inner HTML can't just be entry value. It's got to be this. Right, we want to actually display the item name there. I think. Set item, edit item is not defined. Oh, I don't think we actually have that set up, do we? So this should be this entry. Item. Let me clear this for a second. So when we click on that, oh, it should be this entry. Set edit localized. Wait a minute, that's not even the right one. Populate item listing. When we click one of these guys, set item, set edit item. Oh. Forgot to rename that function. There we go. Okay, so it set the item type correctly. That's good. It looks like it failed some other stuff, but at least that's setting correctly. So we know at least, some of the data is getting there correctly. Let's see. item ID. Item ID text. Oh, this should be value. There we go. Okay. The search window still isn't showing correctly. Tammin, how's it going? Good to see you. Are the localized strings hard-coded on the JavaScript side? Right now they are, yes. I'm doing that just so that we can get the data structures right and get the interaction between these two correct. And then what we're going to do is these arrays will be nuked. And then as part of this onload, we're actually going to go ahead and get the content of the file, parse it, and then stand them up that way. So this is just kind of the first step of getting that to work, is just kind of, we're using hard-coded data for now until we get the logic right, and then once we get the logic right, then we'll start reading from the file. Okay. So why is this? Oh, the title is that. Oh, because we did. I see what happened. There we go. So now when we do health potion, it shows up here. Now, this is obviously doing something wrong. So set edit item 139, which is this one. So edit name string ID inner HTML. This should be this should be item name string ID and item name string edit button. And then this should be that. Okay, so that works. This is not working for some reason though. Let's see. Okay, so 140 item name string value. Item, oops, we missed it here too. There we go. Okay. So, it shows you what the ID of the string is here. It shows you a preview of what the string is here, but that's read only, right? And if you click this, why didn't that work? It should have taken you here. Let me just refresh that real quick and try that again. Oh, okay, here we go. Cannot set properties of null string ID. Okay. Oh, this is probably because this is named wrong too. So we do that, we hit the edit button. Now it takes us there. Perfect. Okay, so I don't know, if we do test, right, and we apply that string, and then we go back to items, select it again, we see the new string is reflected there. We do have to refresh this view, so I could add some logic there to do that, but cool. So now we can actually, go back and forth between the two, and that seems to work reasonably well. The only other thing that we'll have to do is, if we don't actually have a string yet, we'll have to have a way to create a string. And we'll probably also want a way to select from an existing string. So the edit will take you straight to it if one exists. If one has not been set up yet, it will be default, like this guy. And then, so what do we need? Select, edit, and create for each one of these guys. I guess that makes sense. Okay, so let's do item name string create button, and we'll do open create string. Let's see. I guess it's just going to be. We don't even need that, do we? I think we just need create new string. Well, no, we need both. Create. Reason I'm saying we need both is because we need to change tabs. Right, so we need to do we basically need to do this, right? So we need to do that and then create new string. And then I guess what we could do is to automatically assign this, we could do current edit item. Oh, wait a minute. We'd have to have the field. We'd have to know which field this is for to do that. We don't have a way to pass a pointer to that. I guess for now, what we'd have to do is come up with a way to sort of pass that back. Let me make sure this works first. So if we open this up and we do... Why is that on a different line? I guess we ran out of space. That's kind of lame. All right, if we do this, it should take us to create a new string. Yep, it's already created the new string. We can apply that. But if we go back, right, we still don't have a way to actually change that. So maybe create from here isn't necessarily what we need. Okay, I'm going to have to think about how this is going to work. So essentially what we need is a way to say, this is the property that I'm trying to set when we either are creating or selecting a string. Right, so when we transition to this screen, we have the apply button here, right? And I could add, I guess, technically speaking, the string that we have active here, if we were to go back here, that's still in memory. So we could just say apply active string, and then that would grab the ID, and of course the string itself. Let's see. Curious, have you ever needed to look at the disassembly of your code during this project? On stream? No, I don't think so. I have off stream a couple times when I was experimenting with some SIMD stuff, but I don't think so. If you use post data, that would prompt for a resend of the data on back navigate. Yeah, but I'm not posting any data because there's no server. 1 second. Muted again. Sorry about that. Thank you guys for the redeems. Yeah, my brain is like in fog tonight because of the allergies, I think. Thank you for the subscription, by the way. Yeah, thank you. It was approximately 10:38 when you muted. Okay. Yeah, it's only a couple minutes. All right. So, most of that was just me kind of trying to think about how it works. So, or how it should work. So the way that this essentially works is this use active button uses whatever string you currently have selected, right? So, if you come in here and you say I select default string, and then you go back to items, and then you hit use active, it uses the default string. If you go here, and then you go, I want to switch it back to health potion, and then hit use active, it switches to that. Versus hitting edit, which will take you straight to that string. So I think that works. It's a little bit clunky, but like it's just a internal utility, so I think I'm okay with it for now. Diamond, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. All right. Yeah. You know what? Quite frankly, I think I'm gonna end the stream early tonight. So I was hoping to get all this done, but like I can't even think or focus right now because my allergies are just killing me. So I think I'm going to end early tonight. Just because I'm feeling kind of terrible. And we'll pick this back up next on the next stream. So, apologies for that. Apologies for the mute issues. Like I said, my brain is just not firing on all cylinders tonight. So, I'm going to go ahead and pick somebody to raid. I really do want to say thank you guys for being here with me and having patience and whatnot with me tonight as well. And let's see who we can find to raid. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna dose up on some allergy medications when I step away from here for sure, and probably just go pass out. Let's see. Do we have? I was hoping Els Dragoon would be on tonight because they normally stream. Oh, they are on. Perfect. That's who we're gonna raid tonight. All right. So yeah, thank you guys so much for following along, and yeah, I'm gonna go take some Benadryl and pass out. So yeah, I'll see you guys on the next stream. See ya.